Hey guys, welcome back and thanks for tuning in. You're listening to the Call It In podcast. I'm your host, Nai. That's Nai because I'm new and insightful. So today we're going to be focusing on relationships. For those who may be new to the series or not familiar with the themes, let me be the first to welcome you to the crew. CREW, CREW, is an acronym for the four themes this podcast focuses on. It stands for careers and cultures, relationships, education, and wellness. If you want to know a bit more about the start of this podcast and the meaning behind these themes, be sure to check out season 1. And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram, like our post, share our episodes, and DM us your feedback at _colored_in. So today is our relationship episode, and apologies in advance, guys, if my voice seems a little off and it's not as peppy as usual. I have a headache and it's not fun, but I am powering through it. And then I'm going to be signing off and going to sleep early. I've been on this app called Clubhouse, and it's really cool. It's a really good space to network with individuals, but it gets very overwhelming and very binge-like. It's almost like it rivals Netflix in the sense of you can be on it all day engaged, but at the same time just gets away from you and escapes, and it really kind of messed up my sleeping schedule. So for anyone who is on it, I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you're networking, building connections, but definitely set boundaries and set limits so you're not on it all day like I was. Anyway, back to the topic. So we are talking relationships, and if you might have noticed or will notice eventually, this is going to be my first solo episode on relationships, which is crazy because I've done about 3 already. This is my 4th one. And this is the first time I'm ever speaking on the topic by myself. A little weird, but also it makes sense. One, because my podcast is hybrid in the sense of I do have episodes that is more solo, which is just me speaking in the mic. And then I do have episodes where I invite guests to come on and talk about their passions, advocate for something that they're passionate about, market their products, market their services, promote their businesses. So it makes sense, kind of, but the real reason why this is probably my first episode where it is just me is because relationships and relationship management is very complex. It varies from individual to individual. I've said this probably so many times, and I'm going to keep saying it because whatever I show you guys, whatever I tell you guys, one, I want to make sure that it's as factual as possible or that it has some type of relevance to you. But in the small chance that it doesn't, that's okay, right? Because relationships are not meant to be universal across the world. And what I mean by that is you will never find the same relationship between other individuals. It has to be unique. It is unique, almost like our fingerprints. But of course, there are patterns in relationships and patterns in human behavior that allows us to have bigger concepts on how we can manage relationships effectively and get out of toxic ones and engage in healthy ones. So that's why there's a whole realm that can be dedicated to it. But on the very micro level, one relationship will just never be the same to another. That's just that. Might be a hot take. I don't know. Fight me on it. But with that being said, I try my hardest to include as many voices as I can because what my platform is focused on is giving a voice back to the people. I want to tap you on the shoulder, bring you on here, and give you back your voice. I talk about this a lot in my first episode where I discuss my why. It's called Coloring in My Why. If you guys have not listened to that yet, please definitely go check it out. It sets the tone for what this podcast is about. One of my main reasons was that I was very silenced and sheltered as a child until I had a very empowering encounter with my debate teacher who instilled in me a confidence to always speak up, whether it's about something that I'm passionate about, something I don't like, something that I do like and something that I love and that I like to have fun with. He was like, the shadows are not for you. You are not for the shadows. Like, you're not for the streets, right? So that lesson was so powerful in transforming me into who I am today, that I want to not only spread that lesson to you guys, but also give you the chance to execute and practice on it. So that was my whole spiel. I don't know why I went into that all, but it felt right. So with that being said, this is my first episode being solo dolo, but I think I have something really cool geared up for you guys. And I want to start off by saying that I was inspired to do this episode based on a TED Talk that I had watched recently. It was hosted by Robert Waldinger, who is a renowned Harvard psychiatrist, Zen priest, and psychoanalyst. He spent much of his career researching the answer to the question, what makes a good life? He currently directs the Harvard study of adult development, which at 78 years running and counting is likely to be the longest study of adult life ever done. And his TED Talk, What Makes a Good Life, has been viewed over 30 million times, making it also probably one of the most popular TED Talks to ever been viewed. But he shares some of the most inspiring insights about relationships and also talks about his own journey to happiness and resilience. So, so in his TED Talk, he says the answer to that question, what is the secret to a happy, fulfilling life, is relationships. He goes on to say that relationships make us happier. However, the longer message in his TED Talk is that they also take work, and they take constant work. We're never in a place where we can say, okay, my relationships are good. That's it. I'm done. Not doing no more work to sustain this. We chill. We in a happy place. See ya. Right? People are always changing. We're always changing. So relationships are always changing. Taking care of our relationships is a project that keeps on going, but it's worth it. It's worth the investment. That TED Talk touched my soul. It made sense, right? But I was like, wait a minute, where's the research? Like, is this factual or is this opinion based off of your long 78 years of living? So I did some digging and actually looked into his published work and experiments. And research has actually shown that relationships not only keep people happier, so emotionally better, like they hit you on the emotional level, but it also kept people physically healthier. And I was like, what? You mean to tell me that a good relationship could keep me snatched? And it's funny, like as surprised as I was, it turns out a lot of people who was finding this data was also surprised. So when these results first began to come out in research data, it actually surprised people. And the Harvard Adult Development Study, headed by Waldinger, which followed males in a Harvard undergraduate class, which also included President John F. Kennedy, from their late teens all the way through their 80s, the best predictor of those men being healthy and happy at 80 was not their cholesterol levels, it was not their physical activity levels, or even their wealth. It was the level of satisfaction they had with their relationships. Y'all don't have to take my word for it. Definitely look at his TED Talk. It's called What Makes a Good Life, and it was done by Robert Waldinger. And look at his research, look at his experiment, and also look at all the other experiments that were done after that, because they definitely built on it and people just kept going back to the same conclusions. It has not been proven false yet. So it turns out relationships aren't just nice to haves. Friendships aren't just nice to haves. They're a key factor in our long term mental, physical, and emotional health. The strength of your relationships has been found to have very concrete ramifications on health, including the health of your cardiovascular system, immune system, and levels of inflammation. Research has shown that relationships can also affect your quantity of sleep, your risk of depression and dementia, your response to stress, and even the rate at which your cells age. Y'all need to not sleep on this, okay? So, no matter how much we want to be a loner or left alone or not deal with other people's flaws, etc., the bottom line is we need relationships. We are a social animal. We are the only animal that requires socialization to survive. Relationships are a key element to our sustenance, where the healthier it is, the better and the more benefit you get. Here's where I'm diving into this. How can we do that? How can we maintain strong and healthy relationships? So I want to get into that for you guys. I asked you all the question, got a slew of responses back. Also did my own research to see if this question has been answered before, see how it has been answered, and I compiled kind of some tips together that could be behaviors you can adopt to maintain and have strong, healthy relationships. So the first tip is pay attention. It's pretty self explanatory, but what I want to say here is that we are always distracted. We're with people, but at the same time, we're on our phones. I remember, and I shout out to my friend for calling me out on it. We were having soup dumplings. It was actually my first or second time having soup dumplings. They're really good, especially in New York. And she was talking, we were having a little catch up. It was three of us, and I was just on my phone. I was kind of listening, it wasn't active, but I was on my phone, just kind of like, I don't even remember what I was doing. And she literally like tapped my phone screen and was like, "Hey, I'm talking." And one, I felt so embarrassed. I was just like, "Oh shit, I'm so sorry." But at the same time, it's just like, yeah, no, get off your phone. So I turned off my phone, flipped it over, put it on the side, left it alone, put it on silent. Because I was just like, wait a minute, I need to be engaged. I need to be here and be present and pay attention to what she's actually saying. We are always distracted. And what makes it worse is that we do this to the people that we're closest to. We do this with people that we kind of take for granted, not necessarily them or their benefits or who they are, but we take for granted their presence. We're like, you're my best friend. I'm going to see you all the time, as often as I like, or I'm going to call you as often as I like because you're my best friend. You're my mom. I'm going to see you as often as I like. You're my dad. You're my boyfriend. You're my whatever. Like, there's been an established frequency of their presence, of your relationship, that you're just like, I'm never going to not see you. That continuity doesn't end in our brain. So if we're a little distracted for one moment, we're like, it's okay, because I'm gonna see them next time. We need to not take that for granted, especially in the current crisis that we're in. And a simple remedy to that is to notice each other and pay attention. If you keep noticing, you stay current on how somebody is. You stay current on what their life is like, what their day is like. And you have to put in that kind of ongoing time paying attention to somebody in order to keep a relationship healthy. Being a good friend means offering the gift of your full attention. We have a tendency to want to fix problems or relate what our friends are going through to our own experience. We're often not really listening. We're just kind of waiting for them to stop talking so we can tell them our story. Before you jump in with an opinion or a solution, make it a point to actually ask these three questions first. And I actually got these three questions from a book that I read. I cannot remember. I think it was somebody named Densworth. Oh, I'm so blocking out on it. I'm so sorry, guys. I wish I would have done this research before, but they say, whenever you're having a conversation with somebody, you should ask them, do you want me to just listen or are you looking for advice? 9 times out of 10, they will tell you which one they want you to do. And when they tell you, honor that. Don't go against what they actually want you to do. As no matter as hard as it might be, and that might be a challenge for yourself, but honor their wishes when you ask them that question. And that's one of the best ways you can actively listen to your friends and pay attention. My next advice would be take stock. Friendships must be reciprocal and cooperative to thrive. Oh, let me say that again. Friendships have to be reciprocal and cooperative to thrive. It's equal, guys. It's a 50-50, 60-40 at best. And let me show you why. Think back to the last conversation you had with one of your friends. Who did most of the talking? Who usually does most of the talking? And is it usually a fairly even exchange? Whatever answer that is, I can almost bet that you can correlate it to how you feel about that person. Where if you feel like you don't really get to express yourself in the friendship, you're most likely thinking like they're probably like number 5 on the friend list. Or where you're able to give energy and receive energy at an equal rate, whether that's through communication, activity, engagement, whatever the case is, that person is more often than not your best friend. I'm willing to bet on it. I'm willing to bet my pride on it. It's not exactly a tit for tat, right? It's not like, oh, I talk for 10 minutes, you talk for 10 minutes, blah, 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 blah. What it is, though, is that there needs to be a sense of equity over the long haul in the relationship, or else you're going to end up feeling used, or they're going to end up feeling used. And nobody wants to feel that way in a relationship, especially when they're putting time and energy into it. So take stock and make sure that you are giving and receiving at a rate that is conducive and sustainable to you and to the other person in your relationship or your friendship. My number 3, which is something that I have vowed to be for all of my friends, but it's to be a positive force in their life. I want to take a step back. I am a Libra. I often look for balance within anything. That's my key. I don't like being neither here or there. I need to be right in the middle, which can fuck me up sometimes. I'm not going to lie. But when it comes to my friendships and being on that spectrum, I err on the side of positivity. A lot of my friends, they are mixed zodiacs, some worse than others. I'm not going to name who. And positivity is the one thing that can shift them around. I've seen where I've gone into situations where they're annoyed, where they're upset, where they're stressed, where they're flustered. I come in with a positive spin. I come in with positive energy, and their attitude, their feeling, their emotional state does a complete 180. Okay? Positivity is a critical ingredient in friendship. Find ways to express and share positive vibes regularly. There's a reason for that because your word, your tongue is powerful. And I'm not going to go into the whole idea of manifestation because I am religious and there is some conflict within that. But you have to understand, even spiritually, in the Bible, the word was God. God spoke and it was so, right? He spoke. I'm not going to quote the Bible, but it's in that first page, it's in that first chapter of Genesis. And it's just like God said, let there be and it was so. Is that an example of manifestation? I don't know. I'm not going to argue with that. But the power of the tongue is mighty. What you say can affect your mood, it can affect someone else's mood. So, whether that means telling your friends what they mean to you intimately, or sharing an article or a funny video or a meme that makes you think of them, sharing something that you know that's going to be pleasant and delightful for them, that's going to make them laugh, giving them an actual gift, all of that speaks volumes. It's not about how much money you spend, but it's about showing someone you care about them and you're paying attention to what they like and need. Another response that I got, which was probably one of my favorite ones, was show up. And it's different from paying attention because it means being there. And so for your friendship to thrive in the long haul, you've got to show up consistently, both literally and figuratively, being present for birthdays and funerals, even if that means in a socially distanced way. You got to be there for weddings. You got to be there for the catch-ups. You got to be there for the catch-ins, for the dinners. You have to honor the plans that you make and being present to them when you can't be with them in real time. That means answering their text messages and FaceTiming them and giving them an email and following up and saying, hey, when you guys were in a conversation, you'd be like, I'm going to send you that later, sending it to them later. Take them out on dates, pay for their meal, be cutesy with them. Showing up in even the smallest ways counts. And what's more importantly, they won't forget it. We need to be a constant presence in our friends and partners' lives, and vice versa, because it shows effort. And we as humans freaking love effort. We love to see it. Can you imagine if you could put effort in a box, it would be on everyone's Christmas list. Oh my God, it gets us so riled up. Showing up is one of the most practical ways you can show effort. And last but definitely not least, this one threw me for a loop a little bit, but I kind of was able to understand it. Got it from a couple of research journals that I looked at. And basically, I'm going to call it clear out the gray zone. So, research shows that about half of our social circles consist of relationships we don't feel strongly about, one way or another. And that may not be terrible, but the problem with these halfway, relationships is that they're ambivalent. And ambivalent connections can eat up time and energy that we could otherwise spend on closer friendships. So, for those folks who fall in the gray area, ask yourself if you're ready to invest a little bit more time in making them more fulfilling, or if you rather just let that relationship go so you can be a better friend to the ones that matter most. It sucks leaving a friendship or an acquaintance, but honey, life is short and we do not need to put energy into things where it can be lost and wasted. Truth is, they won't miss you more than you miss them if you were already a distant friend. Lives are complicated, relationships are even more complicated. It's not going to be easy, but I can guarantee you, if you put those 5 tips into practice, you will start to see an appreciation for your relationships. You will start to see the health in your relationships, and that will in turn lead to greater satisfaction for you in your life. That's it for today, crew. Thank you guys for listening. Be sure to share this episode with your friends so they can join the crew. Find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, and Anchor, and on our new website. Connect with us on Instagram at _colored_in, and be sure to leave us your thoughts. I'm excited to hear from you guys and cannot wait to speak with you soon.